All right, it is that time once again, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish. We are hitting the books here on the Hammer Betting Network, our first edition of the show for the 2023 football season. And yes, indeed, folks, I know the national championship is tonight in college hoops, but we're talking football on today's show. We're talking NFL draft. We'll talk some early spring thoughts in college football. We'll get you some early thoughts as far as futures, some bets that Knish and myself have made. Before we get into all that, though, let me remind everybody that Hit the Books is sponsored by Betstamp. Boy, I like that. A little cross promotion from the two companies by Bobby Pizza there. That's pretty smart, in my opinion. Speaking of Betstamp, I think it's the easiest way to improve as a sports bettor. How do you do that? You use multiple sports books. Always get the best odds. The difference between a pro and a Joe is simply quite that. Get the best of the number. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like Betstamp. Betstamp compares odds across every sports book, games, futures, player props. You can save time and money by checking Betstamp before every bet you make. Download the app today. If you're looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please make sure you check out the offers available at betstamp.app, hit the books, or hit the link in the description there in the chat. If you sign up through this page, it helps support the show. Knish, long time no talk, buddy. We're
back, baby.
Some hoops. What you been up to, buddy?
Stupid leather basketball off of the court. Get that. I don't want it. I don't need to see it again. Glad this game's over with tonight, and we can go back to the pit game, baby, where the money is made, where the men are done on the field. Listen, hope everybody enjoyed college basketball season. I don't want that, but most of that. I'm glad this tournament's over. Now it's time to get back to the real stuff here, and get talking a little spring game, little early futures openers. This is where our bread is buttered here, and I'm glad to be back.
Let's because I know we'll get asked this later in the show. Did you do anything tonight for the championship game, college hoops?
I literally, the only bet was very early, and I saw you got in a little early on the spread. I got in a little early on the money line. There were some places trading minus 300, even an hour or two after post there. So I laid a little money line. That was about it. I think UConn wins. Would I lay 7.5, 7 now? Not a big fan of that, but just laid a little money line. Even there, what's the most of these money lines are now juiced. I laid minus 300 for nothing crazy. I think UConn wins spread, and maybe you have a stronger opinion than I do. And it was just a total number. You want to say the number, but it was a Betstamp play because I saw everybody was minus 350 or pretty much higher. There was a 300 out there. I bet the 300. Very simple. I don't know anything about these two teams for the most part. So that's all I did.
I did bet Connecticut. I didn't think Circa had good openers. I bet over in Connecticut. Just thought they were bad numbers. Market has agreed so far. I'd still lean Connecticut. I just don't see a pathway for San Diego State. I say that, and they'll probably win the game by 10. Watch it. But I just think Connecticut's the best team in college basketball, even though they got a 4 seed in front of them. I kind of thought that coming in. I did have them in the championship game in my bracket. So, it's not like it was. This is shocking to me that a 4 seed sitting here. Shocking on the other side that San Diego State sitting here, but I don't think the offensive efficiency is there for San Diego State. current numbers, I lean Connecticut. Our great producer, Zach Phillips, I'm not sure you can pull this up, but the bet I made today, because I'm always a guy that bets on the open, and I talk about, well, I betted at this number, pizza bet at the current line, but a bet that might still be available today, instead of laying that juicy money line on Connecticut, I took Sonogo to win the most outstanding player of the tournament, minus 160. I thought it was a decent bet if you didn't want to lay 380, 350, 400 with Connecticut on the money line. I mean, if they win the game tonight, I think Sonogo is going to be the tournament MVP. How can he not? Look at him coming in. I mean, 20 points per game, basically 10 boards a game. The only guy that I could see winning is maybe Hawkins goes off tonight and hits like 10 threes. But, I mean, he was sick in the Final Four. So, I think Sonogo minus, anything less than minus 200, I think is a pretty good value bet. Most outstanding player of the tournament. So that's what I bet. I got nothing else.
I know some other people that did the same.
Yeah, there it is right there. Minus 160 FanDuel.
So I know there was a few people I know that were asking to get it down a little on that when it opened as well. Couldn't get crazy amounts or anything, but they were in full agreement with you that that was the play. There's been a little weird, like this. The only counter I would have to that has been like some of these Manopy like voting has been a little odd. Where sometimes people were like, as by last year with McCormick and a few other years, people were like convinced it was person X, and then all of a sudden it's not. So the voting here can get a little weird, but I would agree at that price. I got no argument at that.
Fair enough. Let's talk basketball. One other thing I want to talk about is, where do you stand, Knish, on racism in America? The Caitlin Clark Reese story. I'm joking. I'm not talking about that. You should have seen your face.
Yeah,
you were like,
I was like, wait, hey, this wasn't is he actually asking me that? Are we turning into Shannon and Skip here for the week to try again? So I did watch that game though. I will say that was I was locked in yesterday, and even I tweeted it. My old man's watching the game. People I don't even know are like, oh, this hell. So maybe a resurgence for women's hoops. I don't know. I did not see that. The ratings on like ESPN are like better than any NBA game this year. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dive. I was just joking there, but I mean, I'm happy. I mean, I think the Friday night semifinal, South Carolina, Iowa, got better basketball ratings than any basketball, men's or women's, in 15 years on ESPN. So happy for it, the girls. And, I think a lot of Caitlin Clark's back, and they're like, why wouldn't she want to leave for the WNBA? Well, I'm here to tell you, she's going to make more money at Iowa and NIL. She might be the highest paid athlete in America next year. So kudos for her. So let's talk some football, though. Let's start with the NFL draft, Knish. Let me say this. As we lead up to the draft, we'll talk more and more. I will say I got a text from our buddy, my draft boss, I should say, the guy that's probably become a multimillionaire single-handedly off the NFL draft. He told me not to bet too much. And I was supposed to make a run towards Arizona today. He didn't lead me in that direction to bet at a couple of the books that are not offered here. Speaking of the books offered here in the state of Nevada, Knish, BetMGM and William Hill are the only two books that are offering a draft prop right now. And they're only offering one. Who will go number one? That's it.
Yep.
In the entire state of Nevada, 2 books, 1 prop is all I can bet right now. I think it'll increase as we get closer, but I'm also hearing that a lot of books are not even going to book it this year. So, yeah, I'd like to talk, value here, value there, but at least in the state of Nevada right now, I mean, there is no value. There's nothing on the board right now. Have you bet anything in the draft right now?
Very small. It's unfortunately, I think we've seen probably the pinnacle of draft betting when, during COVID, there wasn't much to bet. Everybody wanted to offer. You get down a lot. I think there's kind of a combination of a lot of books have taken a lot of red numbers on drafts before. And some of the, especially the old school books in Nevada, as you're saying, are just like washing their hands of it. We're not going to do it. It's one of those things. There's a lot more interest, a lot more eyeball. A number drops. People are beating it up right at open. You can't get a bunch of money down on it. It's a lot tougher now than it was years ago. I mean, books are more conservative. There's a lot more people betting it, so it's harder to get down. Just the liquidity and stuff. And as you're saying, I mean, we're only, 3 weeks? 3 weeks
3
out
weeks
here?
on Thursday.
And across the market, there's really not that much stuff out. I mean, you have first quarterback to go, first running back, a couple of that, but all those have kind of been, either shaped to bet into place or there was no value to begin with on that. So, it's one of those where, I wish we had more, from a content perspective, from a betting perspective. I know a little baby grand there.
Yeah, where are you at right now? I was joking beforehand that you were staying at Hitman's place. Where are you at right now, man? Is that the new gig for you?
Hey, listen, hey, Joey K here. After a few good years, I tell you what, we win. We hit a couple bets there. I might go back there and give you a little Mozart, a little Beethoven. You think I'm not? Just because I'm in Detroit, I'm not a man of class. I can play a little tune there. So, but no, I agree with you. The draft offerings to this point, very disappointing. Hopefully, as we get closer, we have more to talk about. I have a little bit of Stroud to go number one when there was, the trade originally happened. There was that one day where a bunch of Bryce Young's team kind of came in fraudulently, got down to minus 150 on Stroud. I bet a little more. Gun to my head, I still think he goes number one. Would I go out and lay minus 300 on it? No.
Yeah, Zach, our great producer, by chance, can you bring up? I'm not sure that, because it's a little wonky in the futures market, but, who will go number one? I'm not sure we can even bring that up right now. I'm seeing minus 300 plus for CJ Stroud, at least at the couple books in Nevada. 270 is not too bad there. That's cheaper than what's being offered right now here in Nevada, I can tell you. So, 330, I think 330, 350. That's about what I saw. But, I mean, what I want to get into, Knish, is I think the lightning rod right now in the draft coverage is a pair of quarterbacks that I don't think you and I are too high on. Because why? We actually watch college football. Now, that doesn't, just because we're not high on them doesn't mean that they're not going to go high in the draft. I mean, they'll probably get overdrafted. In fact, I guarantee they get overdrafted.
One of them for sure.
One of Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. Where do you stand on those two guys? Because I got a feeling you're going to be agreeing with me that I mean, if you were put the GM hat on, I wouldn't draft either one in the first round. That's just me.
No, as you said, if you're telling me that, either one of those guys, especially Richardson, was a guy like a Malik Willis where he drops to round 2, round 3, then I can, teach him, hopefully get, a little bit in the system. And then after a few years, maybe he gets there. Neither one of the guys is guys that I want to put into an NFL game in the next, year or two. And then you're kind of get into that, if I'm going to take a first round quarterback, part of that is I'm getting him on a cheap deal for the next few years. So it's the whole economics of football is you get him in, you start him early, then I have a few years while he's cheap and I can build up the team. If it takes the guy 2 or 3 years to become a functional quarterback, if he does, you're kind of losing that benefit there. Listen, gun to my head, I never saw it with Levis ever at any point. If you want to tell me Richardson, maybe, can use his physical tools. He spends a few years, sure he gets there. I gun to my head, he's the one I would take, would be Richardson. I thought coming in as a freshman, Richardson was, but you didn't really see much improvement as the, kind of the career span. Also, I just, the in the weeds stuff, if I don't think Richardson is built like a guy who is going to put in the amount of work that it's going to take for him to be there's been some well-documented stuff around Josh Allen, what he had to do during the summer, who did he work with the quarterback. It was years in the making for him to get to where he needed to be to become an elite quarterback. And that's always the one everybody uses. You have to be wired a very certain way to be able to put that in to then get there. I don't think he is. And to be honest with you, I just don't think Levis is very good to begin with. So, I agree. Wouldn't take either one in the first round. I guarantee Richardson, they'll go somewhere in the first round. Where are you?
I think I think 4 quarterbacks might go in the top 10, maybe. In fact, I think they'll go in the first half of the first round, top 15. I'd lay money on that. How would you rank them? The 4 guys, Young, Stroud, Richardson, Levis, 17 Cali in the comments. He likes Bryce Young above Stroud. It depends with me. I'll say this. Am I getting CJ Stroud against Michigan, Or am I getting CJ Stroud against Georgia? CJ Stroud against Georgia is the best quarterback. If I could get more of those type of performances, yeah, I think he's the best. I'm a guy that, Bryce Young is. I mean, size does matter. If you don't believe me, ask any woman. But I like Bryce Young. I think he has the most complete college tape. I just, at his size, I mean, I would say that history is against him. We haven't seen too many guys at his size at least have a long-standing career in the NFL. And I know people are going to say Russell Wilson. Well, Russell Wilson's also 20 pounds heavier than him. I mean, it's just built differently, a lot thicker. So
and they're just like, this is not the draft I'd want to be risking my career on taking, one of these guys or any of these guys in the top. Now, there's a number 5 that's getting a lot of buzz here recently. Mr. Hooker from Tennessee here, who some people are talking late first. I know there's a lot of local buzz here. Lions, maybe a guy that they would be interested in grooming. What do you think? I mean, before his ACL tear, you thought maybe he had a chance to kind of get into this combo of the top 4. Where are you at on him?
Yeah, the injury is the only thing that concerns me. If you told me that he was going to be 100% healthy, fully recovered, not miss a beat, I wouldn't be opposed to taking him late first round. I really wouldn't, because I mean, number one, stats and tape don't lie. I thought his last 2 years, even though he's in an offensive friendly, quarterback friendly system, I mean, it's not like he's throwing a bunch of 5-yard screen passes. He's throwing the ball down the field vertically a ton, and I would say he's one of the more accurate deep ball throwers out of this class. Yeah. I mean, certainly better than some of the guys rated ahead of him. So if healthy, yeah, I don't have a problem taking a flyer on him late first, early second. And let me ask you this, Knish, even deep down the quarterback board, if you got a really good roster that's ready to win right now, I mean, are you opposed to taking a guy that's not going to need much, like a Jake Haener? Like, I'm not saying he's going to win you football games. We just don't see – he just doesn't have to lose you games. You don't have to do much to develop him and whatnot. You don't believe me? Look at what Brock Purdy did. So I think that a lot of these guys should be asking themselves, at least maybe not this year, but in future years, how good is my roster right now? And can I win with a guy that's going to be immediately ready to play? Maybe not win me games, maybe not my future franchise quarterback, but can, win me enough games where I get to the playoffs a la Brock Purdy. I mean, there's some other guys. Obviously, I'm using the same team, the 49ers, but Jimmy G, guys like that. I mean, are you thinking about that if you're a GM, Knish?
No, I liked it because, to me, I don't want to go spend, $10 million on a backup quarterback to have to. I think if you can get one of those college guys that's a little more mature, maybe doesn't have a high ceiling, but, I can get them, in round 3, round 4, and then have my backup quarterback making, $500,000 instead of $5 to $10 million. I think that's good business, and it's a guy who can come in there and, as you said, listen. Do I think Jake Haener is going to take me to a Super Bowl? No, but my backup quarterback, I want a guy that if my starter's out for a few weeks, he gets banged up, especially 17-week season or that, a guy who can come in and just kind of not sink the ship. Type of deal, and so I think that's a good business type of thing when you're talking about like the middle rounds of the draft here, just to get some guy. And as you said, I mean, you've seen it with a guy like I know you used the reference with Purdy is. It seems to me like just drafting a quarterback, in between the 3rd and the 6th, almost like on a year-to-year basis, to hope you can hit on one of those guys. The value is so insane if you hit one, and it pays off. That I think a lot of the smarter teams, have kind of leaned into that. I know it was Brad, the infamous Powers, the Nevada internet here, giving us some, a little bit.
Let me transition. I know, man. Well, I number one, I know people in the chat are going to get at me from the internet, but there's like 50-mile-an-hour wind dust storm warming right now in Vegas. I know you get snowstorms there. We get dust storms, so that's what's going on. That's why this is closed in the back. It's pretty dusty out there. Looks like the mummy out there right now. So let me ask you, Lions, and we'll talk more as we get close to the draft. You mentioned Hooker. What are you hearing Lions position needs? Because, I mean, let's face it, a lot of optimism around the Lions right now.
A little too much for, for some people's taste here. But, Yeah, you know what? I think they
Look at
could
that.
go in a number of directions. The defense is one where I know people, someone to talk the Bijan Robinson. I think pretty much any offensive position, maybe tight end, maybe, but I think really like I would say, if I'm made, sometimes they have the like team to draft offense or defense. I would think, especially front seven makes a lot of sense. If they, I'm sure they would love one of the edge rushers to drop there to get them some more. That's kind of where probably their biggest need is a little bit more pressure on the edge or the interior line, an interior pass rusher. They spend a bunch of money on the secondary this offseason, but still could use a guy there for the future. So we will see. I'm obviously. I know some, this has been like the early offseason play is like Lions division, Lions over, regular season wins. So again, this is, I was betting, Lions division at 20-1 last offseason. Now they're 150. So, I'm going to be obviously rooting at home here, but that this is one of those like the cat is way out of the bag situations with the Lions and kind of where they're at. So.
Before we transition to college football, let's get to a couple questions in the chat. But first, make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button on YouTube if you do like the channel and you like Knish and his thoughts. Who doesn't? Even if you disagree with him. UConn Reb, would you pay Lamar? I wouldn't. That's me. And that's not, I can promise you that is not a racial comment. It's just I'm not big into, I'm more on the road. If you don't have Patrick Mahomes, I'm not into, I'm more you can win a championship a la, on a rookie deal, Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawks style, than to pay these guys. Or, just get in front of the market. Now Patrick Mahomes, the deal that 2 years ago you thought, oh, my God, it's astronomical. How can they afford it? Get ahead of them. Be the first to pay a quarterback because within 2-3 years, that contract's going to look pretty cheap. So it's one or the other for me. I think it's a little behind the eight ball a little bit on Lamar. I just, got to stay healthy. That's my big thing. And look, if I trust Harbaugh, and we'll talk Harbaugh here in a little bit. If John Harbaugh isn't wanting to pay him and that front office doesn't want to pay him, that's one front office that I kind of trust. I mean, look at their draft success over the last quarter century.
No, I hear. I mean, and this is one where it's like honestly, there's so many layers to this of like the Browns, stupid ass organization gives Watson that ridiculous contract, and then so if you're Lamar, you're saying, I'm better than this guy. This guy's, doing stuff off the field, getting nice massages everywhere for everybody. He's getting charged now. So I want more. I want at least what he's got because I'm better than him, and I don't have any of this stuff. If you're the Ravens, you're like, do we want to give this guy, $250 million guaranteed or any? And if you're another organization, it's not just $250 guaranteed. It's that plus, a couple of first round picks. So it's also like his mom is an agent or he's got this business. He doesn't have a real agent, which makes, this even more complicated. Gun to my head, I honestly think he's either going to he might pull like a Le'Veon Bell situation. Like
wow.
I don't, I think he could come back on the tag and then maybe not be healthy. I don't, again, I see where his position is because of a quarterback in the division that got that contract that he wants. But I don't think anybody's giving it to him. And then I just don't think the people around him are giving him the greatest advice right now in terms of how he's handling this. So this would be one that he really, really needs some proper counsel in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I think Lamar is better than Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson. And I know those two guys just got paid, but I just think those are two of the worst contracts in the history of the NFL.
And two of the stupidest organizations that gave these two. Like where you said, the Ravens are good. They're like, we don't want to give this guy. They like just because the Cardinals and the Browns are complete trash organizations. Like that doesn't mean we got to pay him this. So yeah, I see both sides. I'll be interested. It's going to be fascinating to see like how this ends up. I don't see it. It's like maybe he just plays on the tag and then that's it, moves on. I don't know.
Jacob Duffy, this was 10 minutes ago, but when are NFL execs going to stop sleeping on Wisconsin linebackers? I like that, but there's a few more coming out there. And I'll tell you, speaking of Wisconsin, they are a team that I'm very interested in this year, college football. Totally fundamentally a different team, both sides of the line of scrimmage. We'll see what they do there. Any other NFL talk catching your eye here, Knish? Since I last talked to you a couple months ago.
No, I think we'll, especially like some of the win totals and the division stuff. I think we get into as the offseason progresses on. I was going to say I have our friend of the show sent me a couple win totals. I think it was Cowboys over 9.5, Rams under 7.5, which were 2 win totals I played. And I didn't have much on the.
He wants you to say that live on the air.
I don't know if he did or not, but it's too late now. So hopefully the money is at the counter. We already filled for him. So hopefully we didn't. Right. I didn't just send it, but we did play a couple win totals. Those were the only ones. Division futures maybe coming up here.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, he did send me them. He did not say, "Yeah, go ahead and talk about them." I know people. So okay. Yes, that friend of the show would be. It rhymes with shit, man.
Yeah, so yeah. That would be. So Pizza was. I heard him on one of our other shows. I don't know the names, but he was also on Cowboys Over there. I don't personally love that much, but again, that is. Hey, listen, if you trust some. I'm
not either. I don't like the McCarthy taking over the offense.
I don't like to be fired over. We want to run the ball more. Like I would. That doesn't leave me to very confident.
No. I mean, the only thing, they're a public team. Maybe they get better. Whatever. I'll trust his expertise in that area. Speaking of trusting someone's expertise in an area, let's talk about the big bet that you made as far as college football futures. SEC.
Dig 'em, baby.
William Hill came out and they were super aggressive with these conference futures. A&M 30-1, not to win the title, to win the SEC title. Gotta say, Knish, I'm a little jealous you got that before me. Good job there, buddy.
I will tell you, so and I thought actually there wasn't so they again credit to Caesars and Willie Hill for putting these out the first power conference stuff. Now, granted, most people it's like some of those the FanDuel game, the power stuff is usually obviously a lot easier to price, but that was one that was the only one that really jumped out to me for a number of reasons of obviously the talent boom here, a lot of those recruiting wins that they've had, hopefully should be paying off here. Those guys are a year older. A real OC spring stuff seems to be, and you can confirm this, that they're actually letting Petrino call it. They're a little bit more pace. The offense couldn't get any staler than it was last year. So they're adding, that element to it. They've got established quarterback, which I like, and a Bama team, which I'm sure, Roll Tide here that you're talking about. We don't know what they got going at quarterback, and they've got to go to A&M. So your biggest competitor has to come to you, which could be one of those early season division decider games. I thought 30-1 was just way. I was thinking
should have been more 15-1, 20-1.
I agree with that. I was thinking even 10, 12, no higher than 15. 30 was an auto bet for me on that one.
Yeah, I looked at all 5 conferences. There wasn't anything really screaming to me. I mean, maybe a couple pizza style bets for me, but I think you got the best bet literally. And I'm not saying this because I'm on the show with you, buddy. I'm just telling you that would have been the one that I would have made. So kudos to you. The only concerns is it's Jimbo still coaching the team. I mean, I do love the talent level. I just went through there. I still old school do it by hand. I print out the stat pack from last year, go through the start charts and do returning production myself because you can't trust everybody. A lot of people didn't have updated rosters when they posted that. I'm talking about Bill Connolly a couple months ago. Not that he didn't have it. Sometimes they didn't have a roster at that point. So I'll say this about A&M. I can't imagine too many more teams are going to be returning more than they are. All 5 starters in the offensive line. I like Connor Wegman. Stewart at wide receiver is great. Almost everybody's back on defense, worth a damn. I think defensive line will be top 5 in the country. That great recruiting class that they had coming in last year, now those guys are sophomores. Plus, they added more coming in this year. So their freshman, sophomore classes on the defensive line, I mean, tremendous. The only thing that concerns me is I think LSU's pretty good this year. Yeah. Besides Alabama, I think LSU's a legit top 10 team. So, I mean, they got 2 teams in that division that are pretty good. But A&M did beat LSU last year, even in a 5-7 season, even the season that LSU won the division. So, and I'm not, I'm not a big Kelly fan. So kudos to you. Little tip of the cap for the the A&M bet that you made.
I will say, if
go ahead.
3 plays into the season, if they've taken up the entire play clock on the first 3 plays and ran the ball a few times, I'll sell you the 30-1 because that means Jimbo's still ahead in the offense there, and I'm out. So we'll know about real quick how Petrino's in there. I also think to add on, I think a couple of the problems that they had in that locker room there got cut out and shipped out there, especially a few of the players. Out. Yeah, that weren't exactly buying into the culture there. So hopefully, I think last year they had a pretty significant culture problem there that hopefully is taking a bit of a turn here for this season.
I know I'm bouncing around, but before I miss it, Kyle Estrada in the chat draft. Paris Johnson, first offensive line. Anthony Richardson, third overall. Kyle, we'll get to that as we get closer. I mean, it's just stuff's not widely available. I'll be just totally honest. I haven't looked at it deep enough yet. I'm pretty much I'll get there as we get closer to draft week, but I'm not there yet to think there's any value until the boss hitman got himself when it comes to the draft. Until he tells me something, I'm not doing too much with that. So I'm sorry. I don't have any. Do you have anything thoughts on any of that?
I would not bet Richardson or Flowers. Either of those are not, especially at those prices, not attractive to me. Paris Johnson, there seems to be a little bit of a debate there. That would be, gun to my head. Of those 3, the only one I would actually be interested in. The other 2 for sure no. But again, not something I'm like super bullish on in terms of the Paris Johnson play. There is a number of kind of out of differing opinions. Also depends on like what your type of offense, and that doesn't seem to be like one cohesive that's our guy offensive line, and the price reflects that.
I will say I'm with you on A&M. I hope they don't look crappy early on because I did bet them. I mean, one thing FanDuel did as early as I've ever seen it, they'd start releasing game of the years. I mean, there's like 30 games you can bet right now, including like 5 or 6 week 1 games. I laid 3.5 with A&M against Miami. I mean, that should be a barn burner between 2, coaches that I don't like. But I hated everything I saw from Miami last year. Everything. I mean, and I didn't necessarily love the hires that he made. So I just think A&M is bigger, stronger, faster, cheap number. Made it 6.5. So I did bet them. I think that's week 2. I laid the 3.5 there. It's still available. I guess FanDuel doesn't know who I am. They only moved it 10 cents. So it wasn't a super big bet, but I did make that bet. So I'm with you on A&M, positive there. Let's talk your Michigan Wolverines. So the teams that there's been 10, 12 teams that have had a spring game. I mean, obviously Michigan would be. There you go.
There you go. Suited up, baby.
There you go. I'll tell you that I was ready to suit up for the Big Blue after watching the spring game. I'm pretty fired up, pretty optimistic about Michigan. Now, there's still some work to be done if they want. I mean, the goal now, after you've beaten Ohio State back-to-back years, after you won the Big Ten back-to-back years, I mean, can you win a playoff game and win a national championship? I have my concerns there still. I think they need to get, their one wide receiver short, or, somehow a guy steps up in summer and fall camp. They're going to need an alpha dog in that room that I'm not sure that they have yet. They also got to find a cornerback outside, opposite of Will Johnson, who I think is elite. Their outstanding 5-star freshman that came on at the end of last year. But I mean, I've watched a ton of spring games. I've been watching them a long time. Knish. I mean, that's a good looking football team. They're legit preseason top 5. They deserve to be the preseason Big Ten favorite. And people are like, well, of course they are. Well, not really. I mean, when's the last time Ohio State wasn't the preseason Big Ten favorite? A decade ago? The year that, Tressel got let go in May when they, the 5 guys with the tattoo gate, were suspended the first 5 games. I think that's the last time Ohio State wasn't a preseason Big Ten favorite. So I got to tell you, man, that team looked good, particularly defensive line is elite. If there's a better defensive line group in the country, I'd like to see it because they're deep. They got multiple 300-plus pounders. They got guys that can rush off the edge that can rush the passer. I love it. I like the Wolverines this year. How much have you bet in the chat? Somebody mentioned how much have you unloaded on Michigan already? Have you bet the Wolverines to win the title?
I'm with you that Honestly, I would rather at the lower price, do like to win the Big Ten. Even though I mean the 1-8 doesn't really, that's not. I'm running to the window in April to do it.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like in the portal era, to have the depth they have in the trenches on the defensive end. I mean, I think if you rent, and I'm being serious, if you took their 5 starters and the 5 backup offensive linemen, the 5 backup could be like the 3rd or 4th best offensive line in the Big Ten, and probably
Agreed.
doing the same on the defensive line. So the depth they have in the trenches is just unheard of in today's college football. I agree. Skill position wise, they're definitely not, of the top, the USCs or the Georgia. They don't have the massive 5-star guys on the outside. And I know I saw you tweet about that. Amorion Walker was the big, he struggled against, the new Cooper Cup. That Peyton O'Leary, he cooked him a few times. We'll see. I don't know.
Half dozen times he cooked him.
They talked him up last spring as the walk-on. He got a scholarship this year. He never got any playing time, but I don't know. He looked good this year. So and they need some receiving help. So yeah, they're going to be. I think we're in for another Big Ten showdown. But I mean, that's the biggest thing to me is like. I think this team could win 10 games with Jack Tuttle as their quarterback.
I agree with that.
So there's one of those where like when you've got that much depth, not that much can go wrong to totally derail your season where you're not super reliant on that. I know it, but people are asking on the Big Ten. There was nothing in the Big Ten. That drew my bad 5-1 is not enough for me.
Too short. I was hoping to bet the Badgers.
Yeah,
I think they could be undervalued, but 5-1, they were priced accordingly. I think that's a sleeper team. I'll give you a sleeper spot. I think Ohio State plays at Wisconsin the week after playing Penn State. Obviously, Fickle, that game will mean a hell of a lot to them. That's a spot there that I'm hoping in game of the years and whatnot to attack there. But I want to bet Wisconsin. I think they got a favorable schedule, but 5-1.
5-1, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Are they doing divisions still in the Big Ten?
The Big Ten is, yeah. The Big Ten still divisions for this year. Big Ten, SEC, MAC, and one more still division. That one though, as you mentioned it on the ACC, because my first glance on the ACC, I was like, oh, there's some long prices in the Coastal. I had to reset. We're like, wait, there is no more Coastal. So all these crappy Coastal teams have no shot. So that took any ACC interest I had out of there. What are you hearing? Any chatter on Mr. McCord? I know no one follows the spring stuff closer than you do. On Kyle McCord there for Ohio State. I haven't. It's been very quiet out of Columbus this year. And I know I just expect 5-star. When was the last time they had a bad quarterback in Ohio State? But I haven't heard a lot of sauce on the McCord stuff. So any what do you think of him and heard anything, any buzz on how he's looking?
He's the favorite to replace CJ Stroud. I got to watch spring game. I'm telling a lot of people, I know it's boring. Let me watch it. I mean, not that I'm Gil Brandt or some, draft guru scout, but I trust myself. I've watched enough of them. So I got to watch their spring game in a couple weeks. My gut thinks that they're probably a little under the radar, that they're not. I just got them saying that they don't deserve to be the Big Ten favorite. Michigan does. So I think, you would think that would light a fire under them. I'm here to tell you, though, Knish, I rewatched the Michigan-Ohio State game. Now, on one hand, it wasn't a blowout like the final said it was. I mean, Michigan made, 4 or 5 really big plays. But on the other hand, the thing that bothered me was it reminded me of John Cooper Ohio State teams where they're playing 2 opponents. They're playing Michigan and they're playing some psychological defect that they can't get over the hump. Like, I mean, the pressure was the expectations that, hey, we're Ohio State, supposed to beat Michigan. I don't know, man. Michigan's favored right now in that game at FanDuel by like 3. I think that's a fair number. So let me watch the spring game. I do like their couple of their defensive linemen. I think they're loaded at skill position and running back and wide receiver. I got to see the quarterback to see how he fits in.
No, I'm interested to see that because that to me, like if McCord, I think that can tell you everything you need to know about Ohio State season. Just based especially on how they play. Like you need the quarterback to be super productive. And it's the first time in a little while that they've had maybe a question in terms of what they're getting out of the quarterback position there. So I'll be interested to see that. The wanted to also hit on before we the revamp. So this is the first conference here of kind of that's posted with all the realignment here of the Big 12, where no divisions, ton of teams, couple of longer shot sprinkles that had my attention there, and a couple of bets at the top of the board that like I think were literally like of all these like the worst bets you could make.
So one team that caught my eye, I'm going to have to bet it before we get off the air now. I haven't bet it yet, but Texas Tech 20-1 was one that caught my eye a little bit. Did you bet Kansas State? I think Kansas State's odds moved.
No.
Okay.
I went to the bottom half of the board and took a few sprinkles.
What teams did you bet?
It was a UCF, Kansas, and even.
Oh, really? You're betting those teams?
Even Houston got a quarterback. I know. Listen,
no.
Do I think they're gonna win? No. But you've got this, this jammed up Big 12 where I think you're gonna get a lot of, the difference between 1 and 14, not significantly much. And again, do I think any of those teams, are gonna come in and dominate or any of that? No. But I had to play a couple of the prices there that I thought were value losers, in my opinion. So, we'll see. And again, this is one of those should Oklahoma and Texas be the favorite? Yes. I'm hoping for a little bit of chaos there where, I mean, like the difference between your rating on like a Baylor, a TCU, and an Oklahoma State and a Cincinnati, a Kansas, and a Houston. I mean, we're talking like not significant margins here on teams that are 12-1 and teams that are 75-1. So that was a little bit of my regard.
I get it. I just worry about the talent depth. I don't like Cincinnati's coaching hire. I watched BYU spring game, believe it or not. I'm worried that there's not.
That was not one of them. So that was one I did cross off the list. That was not one of the ones that I was in.
So I'm not wild about that one. I can tell you what I just bet while you were talking. I bet Texas Tech 20-1, $100. So I like that head coach, Joey McGuire. So that's one that do I think they're going to win? No. Oklahoma and Texas deserve to be the favorites. So couple things. I do want to get to the national championship future boards before we sign up. Was there anything other conferences, any like long shots that you saw that were peculiar your interest?
Nothing. The only to me the one that like stone cold, absolutely nothing to bet, I thought was Pac-12. And I don't see that change. That's one there's nothing where I think there's a very solid top 5 and it was priced accordingly. And nobody outside of that top 5 has any shot whatsoever.
I want to bet Utah, but I mean, it's tough betting them to three-peat. If they weren't going for a three-peat, I think 6-1 was a little too much for them. But I think obviously Oregon and USC are more talented.
I've seen JTH 241 mention Oklahoma State a few times, and I know they missed a few of the quality. I think Oklahoma State is going to be awful. I think they got Michigan Allen Bowman, third string transfer in, who's leading the competition. I think they could be legitimately not good this year. So no 14-1 for me. I would not touch that. I think they could have a 4-win type of season. So I'm out on the Gundy era and the moves they've made, the talent loss, the QB changes. I think they could have a real rough one this year. So no.
JTH at 231, Zach mentioned Louisville. That is a team that does have a cakewalk schedule. That's a team I think I'm going to be betting over a season win total. I like Jeff Brom. I like the talent they brought in. That's one that there might be some value there in a year one situation.
Yeah, I like would a regular season win much more than the future price.
Yeah, I mean, the ACC to me is, and we'll get to Clemson here a little bit, Florida State, and then everybody else. I mean, North Carolina's got a great quarterback. They don't have a good head coach. He can recruit, but I mean, X's and O's wise, not there. But yeah, I'm not there on the conference for Louisville. I thought they were I was hoping to bet them, long shot. but they were probably priced accordingly there. Let's talk national title futures, because I have made a couple bets. If you want to bring that up on the board, have you made any national championship futures bets? I'll say kind of the long shot that I have bet. I have bet Clemson 30-1.
Oh,
I think they're flying. Old Lee Corso sneaking around the chicken coop a little bit. I love the Garrett Riley hire at offensive coordinator. I think for the first time in a couple of years, they have a legitimate offensive coordinator. And I think Klubnik, I also bet him to win the Heisman. So I think they kind of go hand in hand there, priced similarly. I like Clemson. I think Florida State, obviously getting a lot of love. Florida State might even be the preseason ACC favorite. Florida State goes to Clemson. Notre Dame goes to Clemson. I think Clemson will be, they'll be a short favorite in 4 or 5 games, but I think they'll be favored in all 12 games. And if you're going to give me a team that's going to be favored in all 12 games and you're going to give me, that kind of price, wow, down to 18-1. Interesting. I would not bet 18-1.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
that dropped in the last week or two. I made that bet just a couple weeks ago. It was 30-1. I didn't think I'd move it that much.
Love to our friend Bud Elliott there, but I think the worst bet on that board is Florida State to win the Natty. Don't get me wrong, I think they'll be better this year, but in terms of like winning a national championship, I don't think they're in that conversation, especially at that price. I have the one that I'm upset. We actually, I remember when we did the post national championship show, there was some LSU 40s, lasted about 3 minutes, and I wasn't able to get any. That would have been one that I was interested at the current board. To me, I think the play is really like look for an early team as opposed to, jumping in, especially because I don't mind betting the chalk, if it's worth, but Georgia quarterback questions, Alabama quarterback questions. So you've got some, uncertainty there. USC's defense probably, is it going to be better? Is it going to be, so nothing too much for me in the Natty. I will just be looking to some of those early season spots where a team drops one. That's kind of where I prefer to jump in now as opposed to any of the natty stuff there. Getting in for the moment.
Something now. This is in the weeds. This is something very in the weeds. So let's flash forward to week 1, biggest game, Florida State LSU. If you got 25, 30 outs, I can promise. Take odds up. The internet goes. You want to bet the winner of that game at that book because obviously they'll be springboarded well into the top 5 at that point. So there'll be a book or two that leave their national title future odds. And boy, if the winner of that game, their odds will be basically almost cut in half after a win. You can get a discount there. I'm not as big of a future guys as I used to be. I guess. As I've evolved here, I don't know. I guess I've gotten boring. I don't bet a lot of long shots anymore.
Yeah, I don't, like in terms of especially like how much you can get down and some of these where the actual, the value is on this. Fun to talk about, but especially the power conferences. Usually there's not that much to get in there. If you met Brad was a little choppy there, but he was just saying if the loser or the winner of LSU, that FSU game, if somebody stays up there, usually a few books, usually some of the softer books, forget to pull odds down, then and that's one where like third quarter, somebody's up by a few scores, you can even fire in that. So I would agree with that strategy there. As there tends to be a number of places that leave those up no matter what. And like you said, winner of that game has then like the carte blanche to drop pretty much any other regular season game and still be in the playoff conversation.
Yes, agree there. I will say this. I'm glad you mentioned that Florida State not much. I kind of like LSU in that game. I think FanDuel has that game. Florida State favored by 1. I'm going to wait and see if I can get a better number, but I will be, if that's the number, I will be on LSU. I like LSU in that game. I really do.
I love the T-Bills comment. Yes, I agree. I strongly some of the time you've got loose capital. There's never been a better, literally. I know Joey economics here. Never been a better time to make some free money than with some of the T-bill and interest rates out there right now since probably in any of our lifetimes. So yes, there can be some good investment there if you've got some side cash as opposed to tying it up in Florida State to win the Natty.
Before we sign off, I do want to make sure you're subscribed to the Hit the Books YouTube channel so you can get notified real time whenever a new episode drops or we go live. If you do enjoy our content, please smash the like button. If you're listening in audio form, please rate and review it 5 stars in that regard. Anything else? Closing thoughts? You and I are going to be doing this weekly from this point, so I don't want to tackle too much. We can talk Heisman next week. We'll get further into the draft stuff, and then any spring games that I might catch this upcoming week, we'll talk about that. And anything you want to hit before we close off?
No, I think look a nice little appetizer here to get us back into the mix, and look forward. Yeah, a couple of more spring games getting going here, and we can get the the season primer coming in. There's also, we'll do it next week. FanDuel posted a few win totals that were out there.
Save those. We will get to win total. We'll get to those win totals. I'm gonna make a few of those bets actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh, okay, then I don't want to jam you up here.
Fair enough. We'll see how much I can get down. We'll see. Hitman wasn't wanting to. Hitman was limited. They're not even taking it. They're only taking it on the app only. They're not even letting them bet that in person. So I have to physically drive in Arizona and see if it's the same deal. So,
Also, the master. This is there. There was a master's pool I'm in. That I sent it out on to the guy who was running the pool was like, we need some more people. I was like, oh, I'll post it on social media. I don't think he knew how many followers I had on social media. I might have forgot to mention that. And he got slammed with literally hundreds of ads. And now the guy who's he's friend of a friend in real life. Every year he does the pool. He's bitching at me about how that. So DM me on the side. I can do a few invites, but I can't do the public post anymore after I got in trouble a few years ago.
Ethan Thomason in the chat. We'll talk Heisman next week. Wegman, Heisman. If you need a Heisman bet, again, Club Nick, I did make that bet. 25 to 1 or greater, I think is okay there. That'll do it. For the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish, I'm merely Brad Powers. Make sure for all of our show updates, make sure you're following Hit the Books HQ on Twitter and the Hammer HQ on Twitter. That'll do it for the first 2023 edition of Hit the Books on the Hammer Betting Network.
We're back.